The Boxer Rebellion, Boxer Uprising or Yikechan movement was an anti-imperialist uprising which took place in China towards the end of the Qing dynasty between 1899 and 1901. It was initiated by the militia United in Righteousness, known in English as the Boxers, and was motivated by proto-nationalist sentiments and opposition to foreign imperialism and associated Christian missionary activity. The great powers intervened and defeated the Chinese forces. The uprising took place against a background of severe drought and the disruption caused by the growth of foreign spheres of influence. After several months of growing violence against the foreign and Christian presence in Shandong and the North China Plain, in June 1900, Boxer fighters, convinced they were invulnerable to foreign weapons, converged on Beijing with the slogan, "Support Qing government and exterminate the foreigners." Foreigners and Chinese Christians sought refuge in the legation quarter, in response to reports of an armed invasion to lift the siege. The initially hesitant Empress Dowager Cixi supported the Boxers and on June 21 declared war on the foreign powers. Diplomats, foreign civilians and soldiers as well as Chinese Christians in the legation quarter were placed under siege by the Imperial Army of China and the Boxers for 55 days. Chinese officialdom was split between those supporting the Boxers and those favoring conciliation, led by Prince King. The supreme commander of the Chinese forces, the Manchu general Ronglu, later claimed that he acted to protect the besieged foreigners. The Eight-Nation Alliance, after being initially turned back, brought 20,000 armed troops to China, defeated the Imperial Army, and captured Beijing on August 14, lifting the siege of the legations. Uncontrolled plunder of the capital and the surrounding countryside ensued, along with the summary execution of those suspected of being Boxers. The Boxer Protocol of September 7, 1901 provided for the execution of government officials who had supported the Boxers, provisions for foreign troops to be stationed in Beijing, and 450 million taels of silver, more than the government's annual tax revenue, to be paid as indemnity over the course of the next 39 years, to the 8 nations involved. Historical background. Origins of the Boxers. The Righteous and Harmonious Fists, or Boxers United in Righteousness, was a secret society which arose in the inland sections of northern coastal province of Shandong. American missionaries were probably the first to refer to the well-trained, athletic young men as Boxers, because of the martial arts and calisthenics they practiced. The Boxers' primary practice was spirit possession, which involved the whirling of swords, violent prostrations, and chanting incantations to Taoist and Buddhist spirits. The excitement and moral force of these possession rituals was especially attractive to unemployed and powerless village men, many of whom were teenagers. The Boxers believed that through training, diet, martial arts and prayer they could perform extraordinary feats, such as flight. Furthermore, they popularly claimed that millions of spirit soldiers would descend from the heavens and assist them in purifying China of foreign oppression. The Boxers, armed with rifles and swords, claimed supernatural invulnerability towards blows of cannon, rifle shots, and knife attacks. The Boxer beliefs were characteristic of millenarian movements, related to such practices as the Native American ghost dance, a practice of a different society under stress. Several secret societies in Shandong prepared the way for the Boxers. In spite of ambivalence toward their heterodox practices, in 1895, Yu Zhan, a Manchu who was then prefect of Kaozhou and would later become provincial governor, used the Big Sword Society in fighting bandits. The Big Swords, emboldened by this official support, also attacked their local Catholic village rivals, who turned to the church for protection. The Big Swords responded by attacking Catholic churches and burning them. The line between Christians and bandits, remarks one recent historian, became increasingly indistinct. As a result of diplomatic pressure in the capital, Yu Zhan executed several Big Sword leaders. but did not punish anyone else. More secret societies started emerging after this. The early years saw a variety of village activities, not a broad movement or a united purpose. Like the Red Boxing School or the Plum Flower Boxes, the Boxers of Shandong were more concerned with traditional social and moral values, such as filial piety, than with foreign influences. One leader, for instance, Zhu Hongdunge, started as a wandering healer, specializing in skin ulcers, and gained wide respect by refusing payment for his treatments. Zhu claimed descent from Ming dynasty emperors, since his surname was the surname of the Ming imperial family. He announced that his goal was to revive the king and destroy the foreigners. Although women were not allowed to join the Boxer units, they formed their own groups, the Red Lanterns. Local law reported that they were able to fly, walk on water, set Christians' homes on fire, and stop foreign guns. Powers which the male Boxers themselves did not claim. But the only reliable account of their actual activities comes from the Battle of Shanxine, when they nursed wounded Boxers and did work such as sewing and cleaning. Causes of conflict and unrest. International tension and domestic unrest fueled the spread of the Boxer movement. First, a drought followed by floods in Shandong province in 1897 to 1898 forced farmers to flee to cities and seek food. As one observer said, "I am convinced that a few days' heavy rainfall to terminate the long-continued drought would do more to restore tranquility than any measures which either the Chinese government or foreign governments can take." A major cause of discontent in North China was missionary activity. The Treaty of Shanxine and the Convention of Peking, signed in 1860 after the Second Opium War, had granted foreign missionaries the freedom to preach anywhere in China and to buy land on which to build churches. On the 1st of November 1897, a band of armed men who were perhaps members of the Big Sword Society stormed the residence of a German missionary from the Society of the Divine Word and killed 2 priests. This attack is known as the Ger Incident. When Kaiser Wilhelm II received news of these murders, he dispatched the German East Asia Squadron to occupy Jiaozhou Bay on the southern coast of the Shandong Peninsula. Germany's action triggered a scramble for concessions by which Britain, France, Russia, and Japan also secured their own sphere of influence in China. In October 1898, a group of Boxers attacked the Christian community of Li Yuantun village where a temple to the Jade Emperor had been converted into a Catholic church. Disputes had surrounded the church since 1869, when the temple had been granted to the Christian residents of the village. This incident marked the first time the Boxers used the slogan, "Support the King, destroy the foreigners," that would later characterize them. The Boxers called themselves the Militia United in Righteousness for the first time 1 year later, at the Battle of Senluo Temple, a clash between Boxers and Qing government troops. By using the word militia rather than Boxers, they distanced themselves from forbidden martial arts sects, and tried to give their movement the legitimacy of a group that defended orthodoxy. Aggression toward missionaries and Christians drew the ire of foreign governments. In 1899, the French minister in Beijing helped the missionaries to obtain an edict granting official status to every order in the Roman Catholic hierarchy, enabling local priests to support their people in legal or family disputes and bypass the local officials. After the German government took over Shandong, many Chinese feared that the foreign missionaries and quite possibly all Christian activities were imperialist attempts at carving the melon, i.e., to divide and colonize China piece by piece. A Chinese official expressed the animosity towards foreigners succinctly: "Take away your missionaries and your opium and you will be welcome." The early growth of the Boxer movement coincided with the 100 Days Reform. Progressive Chinese officials, with support from Protestant missionaries, persuaded the Guangxu emperor to institute reforms which alienated many conservative officials by their sweeping nature. Such opposition from conservative officials led Empress Dowager Cixi to intervene and reverse the reforms. The failure of the reform movement disillusioned many educated Chinese and thus further weakened the Qing government. After the reforms ended, the conservative Empress Dowager Cixi seized power and placed the reformist Guangxu emperor under house arrest. The national crisis was widely seen as being caused by foreign aggression. Foreign powers had defeated China in several wars, asserted a right to promote Christianity and impose unequal treaties under which foreigners and foreign companies in China were accorded special privileges, extraterritorial rights and immunities from Chinese law, causing resentment and xenophobic reactions among the Chinese. France, Japan, Russia and Germany carved out spheres of influence, so that by 1900 it appeared that China would likely be dismembered, with foreign powers each ruling a part of the country. Thus, by 1900, the Qing dynasty, which had ruled China for more than 2 centuries, was crumbling and Chinese culture was under assault by powerful and unfamiliar religions and secular cultures.